All right, so we're going down in 3, 2, 1. It's your man DJ Seiko Varner. Hashtag DJ Seiko Varner at Grandpa Crunk. I'm with my big cousin. What's up, Sam? How you doing there, brother?
I'm good. I'm drinking, so I'm good.
He's drinking. What's that IG handle, bro?
Sam's Corner 2018.
Sam's Corner 2018. And we have a special guest on the Fly Guys podcast tonight. Introduce yourself, Crumb Snatcher, brother.
Peace and love. I am your brother, Crumb Snatcher. I'm on Instagram, Crumb_Snatcher_. I'm just a humble guest, appreciative that Seiko would have me on the show. Thank you, everybody.
So, profanity warning, conscious raising warning. This show is not for everybody. We haven't even started, but I know it's not for everybody. So if you're offended by cuss words, and if you're offended by concepts that are out of your realm of knowledge, this one is not PC. It's not politically correct. It's not PG. This is one for, wow. Anyway, so we were just talking about the concept of cussing. All right, because Sam does a lot of cussing. All right, continue.
Well, if I could take the lead on that, I was just saying, so we say cussing, and it's kind of a colloquial reference to the word cursing, kind of how grandma said remote control or fidgetator. We know that cussing really means cursing.
Your grandmother said what?
Remote control. She didn't say remote control. She said remote control.
Remote control.
So when we say cussing, this is the equivalent of, these colloquial terms. So now what we're really saying is cursing. And if you say to curse, we're dealing with magic. Now, what I was going into in terms of what a curse is, it would be to say, I wish you were dead. That's something definitely significant. But if I say to my brother, you the shit, that's not a curse. That's not a curse. That's a compliment.
Okay. All right. Well, you were just teaching us about Genesis 1 and Genesis 2.
Yes. So I take on the understanding that, we are the gods. When they tried to persecute Jesus for saying he was God, he said, isn't it written that ye are gods? So when we look at God, people are like, well, if I prick you, won't you bleed? That means you're not God. Well, what is the power of God? God has the power to speak life or speak death. If we look in Genesis chapter 1, there's only 31 verses, but let's just round it and say 30 verses. So 10 out of 30 verses says God said. If we just round that into fractions, 1 out of every 3 verses, he's speaking life. Now, if we go into Genesis chapter 2, he speaks death. He told Adam, if you eat of this tree, I'm going to kill you or you're going to die. Just a general synopsis. So now when we speak life, we do it all the time and, we just kind of pay no attention to it. So me and grandma talking about cousin Steve, and cousin Steve walk in the room. What does grandma say? You done spoke your cousin up, because we have that power. So now in terms of cursing, we just have to understand there's power in the words, but that power is based off intention. If I could go in one more point and I'll pass the mic. When we identify intention, it's best to do this through a hammer. A hammer can build you a house. Facts. Okay. Also, a hammer can tear down a house. Facts. So now, can you define if the hammer is evil or if it's holy? The reality is the hammer is neither good nor bad. It's the intention behind it. So if I say, I wish I was dead, even though I didn't say any quote unquote curse words, the power and intention, because your words will reach your destination before you do. So with the power and intention behind that, I've effectively cursed. Versus if I'm proud of you, you did a great job. I'm like, God damn it, I love it. is that really a curse? Because the intention that I put behind it was very positive. So in terms of the words, because none of us are from England. None of us are from England. So when we're speaking a language that is not our native tongue, we have to understand what we're saying versus the words we're making up. And last point, neologism. So we have the words like bootylicious. We know bootylicious is a new school word. There is no etymology to it. It's just some frivolous word somebody made up. But the reality is we've taken these words and we've ran with it and we've given it a significance that it just doesn't have. Therefore, we're only, continuing this fake understanding. And, for me and for you and I as adults, we may have the understanding, but when we talk around the kids like this and we use terms like bootylicious, these are going to appear to be real words. So now they're thinking, these words have a meaning that they don't truly have. Or, you look at a hammer and, because these people have ran wild with these misconceptions, oh, that hammer's evil. Yeah, the hammer, you use it, knocked a man in the head and got blood on it. I can see how you may think it's evil. However, that same hammer that got that man blood on it is that same hammer that built that house you was raised in.
I got to take you to task on that, though, bro. The term bootylicious, I think we all know somebody who's bootylicious. So some of us might know a few of them. Okay, so
it's raining outside.
Leave my wife out of this. All right, so we created a term, and I'm using we to talk about the time period, not saying the three of us created, all right? And in that time period, a meaning was given to that term, to that word. So it was created, meaning was given. I can use it in context. And if I use it out of context, you'll say you're using that word incorrectly. So it is a real word. One of the things that I take task is a lot of us think the only things that are real are things that were created in Europe. So if somebody creates a name, that ain't a real name. Yes, it is. Every name was created. Every term was created. Every concept was created. I may not like the name. I'm not saying I like all of the names that are created, but there are other names I like. I don't like the name Esther. All right. I've always just abhorred the name Esther. I just, But I've known some really beautiful women named Esther. So salute to my girl Esther back there in Columbus, Ohio. She was like my best friend. Had a slight crush on her. We were real cool. So great person. I just have always hated that name. Now, just because you don't like a name doesn't mean it's not a real name. And for some reason, Sam talked about this 2 weeks ago. We always tend to demean things that we create, and we'll label those things as a ghetto name. All right. But all names were created. All names that were created didn't necessarily have meaning when they were created. They sometimes develop meaning over time. So we used to lie to people and say, if it doesn't have a meaning, it's not a real name. That's not the truth. And then, people would say, well, they named their child Bodacious. And I would say, yeah, can you believe that they named this girl Little Girl? They named a little girl. Yeah, they named her Nina. I can't believe they would name somebody, but that's a real name. No, that's a word that means little girl in the Latin language, in Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and all those Latin languages. Niña or Nina means little girl. And the name Nina literally means little girl. So they literally name a child little girl, the equivalent of little girl in their language. But to you, since it came from England, you embrace that name and you think it's a beautiful name, and you put down our people when we create names out of our environment. So I do think that bootylicious is a real term. I know a few bootylicious, beautiful women. I can take you on task on, because you'll fry me on everything else.
and if I could just bring it into perspective when we say little girl. Now, even with the name Jesus Christ, people are going to say Christ is a name, but Christ is a title, like doctor. So you'd be like, is doctor really a name? So now we're running around saying and thinking doctor's a name. Well, if we really look at it, little girl is a title. Christ is a title. Doctor is a title to identify a person, not necessarily a name. You know, if I named my daughter, you would be like, that's an interesting name, because it's not necessarily a name, it's a title.
Okay. All right. You would bring up Jesus on Easter weekend. This is Holy Week. I know you want to go.
Scripture references. I didn't think that was going to happen.
Oh, you thought all he did was cuss, right?
No. I watched the Black Panther. That video was 2 hours. You cussed everyone the fuck out of that video. But you brought, once I got past you berating everybody and making your point, like, you brought up a lot of good points that I think a lot of Black people missed. So kudos to you for that. But to speak on the name thing, because somebody named their little girl Wakandria because the movie, and you know, I kind of have mixed views. There's a part of me that's like, that's your child, name them whatever. Then I'm like, ooh, that does kind of seem like a ghetto name. But the fun thing about it is, if you create a name, you can create the meaning behind the name too. Mm-hmm. So that's another power that I think we as Black people have and don't really tap into. We can name our children Erica and spell it phonetically like we're Filipino or something. But hey, if you want to do that, that's cool. Because I kind of like that, because you're saying I'm going to name my child and I'm not going to follow a traditional standard. And by doing so, I also can define the meaning, or even if the name has multiple meanings. So I think it's kind of a cool thing either way.
Okay. Absolutely. I want to endorse that 100%. But like, let's just deal with the reality that none of us are English. So when we say bootylicious, we know that that's pirate talk. Booty is treasure. And we understood these people raped our women, they killed our men, enslaved our children. So now we've adopted their mind state. And when we say bootylicious, we speak from a European mindset. And that's just the reality of it. So a lot of these things that we've adopted, you know, out of slavery. And, you know, I get it, but, you know, how long can we romanticize and, you know, put such endearment on slave culture? And when is it time to deal with the reality? Now, if we're going to recreate something, sure, you know, by all means. But if we're just trying to dance around and romanticize our oppression, you know, how long can we do that?
Yeah, I feel you on that. I don't think we can romanticize it. I think for a lot of us, like the movie Black Panther, it for a lot of Black people, especially for those who had children, they felt it was a great movie on many levels. But the one thing that a lot of things that I heard, well, the one thing I heard a lot of people say is that we were seen in a different light. And for us, I feel now it is time for us to start controlling our own narratives about who we are as a people. You know, like, because we talked a little bit in the other podcast, and I was telling my cousin and the other guy, I forgot his name, but I was in the Philippines for a minute. And I'm going to tell you this. Everybody got regular folks and them motherfuckers. Every culture has it. Every culture has it. But for us, we kind of get the other motherfuckers are put to the forefront. And those of us who are doing different things, saying different things, being conscious, trying to grow, sometimes we don't always get that airtime that other people get. Where in other cultures, it's the reverse that happens. You see all the good stuff, but there be that shady shit that happens too. That stuff doesn't get talked about a lot. Because I saw a whole lot of stuff. I said, dear God, they just like us. I saw some stuff. I was like, whoo. Oh, I said, I saw, I mean, everything from like, they did this special about these fathers who had like 2 families, because getting divorced, you can't get a divorce. So what you do, you up and leave that one family and you go be with the one you want to be with. So, I mean, I just think that the movie had a lot of good points, but I think as Black people, we got to control our narrative. We got, like I said before, we got to stop looking at ourselves through like a white lens. And I think for a lot of us, many people may not like me saying this, but I really kind of don't care. I mean, if we think about what happened from slavery to now, our ancestors, their culture, their language, everything was taken from them. So what happens when you do that? When you take everything that people are familiar with. And the thing is about Black people, nobody wants to say it, but one of the things about us is that we are motherfucking survivors. And no matter what is thrown at us, we are going to survive and we are going to adapt. Black people, in my opinion, are the most adaptive people on the planet. No matter where we go, no matter what happens, we adapt. We do whatever we need to do to survive. And my other point is that I want to say is that I think that as Black people, we are moving forward in a positive direction. We got to take our narrative and push it more to the forefront. We can't let other people tell our stories. We can't let other people tell us how to think, how to respond, how to whatever. We are our own people. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say, and because of our culture and everything being taken from us, in a lot of ways, we are basically like Black white people. And I want to say that because my friend Andre, he went to Ghana, and he's a traditional African priest.
Right.
And he went and he was telling me that this boy called him, I think, I can't pronounce, it's like Oyengbo. I don't know, that's not, I can't pronounce it correctly, but basically it means white person. And so we were talking about it, and I turned to him and said, but he's not lying. When you look at us, yeah, no, even though we're here, yeah, we may look like some of us over there, but culturally, we're white people. And so for us now, we're trying to say these, I think Black people, especially now and even then, have always been trying to say, okay, yeah, we had all this stuff that has happened, but we are trying to find our cultural identity in what is us. Because even though, yeah, you took all of this from us, for some reason, there's something in us that says there's certain things y'all do that we just can't do. There's something about our culture that's still there. There's still some remnants that fight it on some level. Because we all say, oh, that's that white people shit. So even when all this stuff happened, I feel like there's still maybe on some spiritual level something that's a part of us that still rejects it and is still trying to find. I think sometimes I feel like our spirits are still trying to find their way home.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, bro. Go in.
Well, I just wanted to add value to begin with what he said, and of course, throughout the course of what he was saying, he definitely has some most powerful points. But the one thing I wanted to say was a famous quote: "Our people have done so much with so little,
right,
for so long, that we are now qualified to do anything
with nothing."
But the other part, that you had toward the latter part of your statement, I had wanted to bring up the Brown versus Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas, 1954, with Thurgood Marshall. Mm-hmm. And this was the groundbreaking civil rights case to integrate schools. Now, why was this? Why do I bring this up? Because we're talking about the psyche of our people, and he used a strong and powerful test that he got from 10 years before in 1939. It's a little bit more than 10 years, from Kenneth and Mamie Clark. And if anybody's not familiar with what I'm talking about, they did the doll test, which I believe was MSNBC who redid that test.
I think so.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And in the doll test, now this is what they spun it as. They spun it as we need to integrate. So, because they've gotten into our psyche, and it is because of segregation. However, MSNBC had nullified that 40 years after integration. They gave a set of 3 to 5 year olds the same exact test 40 years after integration, and we still failed the test. So, it wasn't necessarily a point of integration or segregation, but the fact that the dominant white society has gotten into our psyche to where now we identify anything, in terms of culture, because as you said, when we go over to Africa, culturally speaking, they identify us as white. And this test is one that proves that we identify with white. Anything that looks like us, because in the test they said, which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the ugly doll? Which doll is the good doll? Which doll is the bad doll? And, I don't want to go too far into too many points of psychology, but, now you see our sisters, they fashion themselves as Caucasian women, where they're wearing blonde weaves, or, I was working with my brother Bert, and I was showing him some information about Black spending. And as I was doing my research for Black spending, I found out that Black people buy blemish remover 400% more than any other people on earth. Now, blemish remover is code. What is blemish remover? It's skin lightening cream. Skin lightener. Ain't no blemish remover. Your blackness is the blemish. That's what that's code that we're dealing with. So I just wanted to add value to the points that you were making in terms of our psyche, and I wanted to also bring up a official test that has been done on several scales to show where our psyche truly lies. Because if you confront a Black woman who is wearing blonde weave, she'll tell you that she loves herself. However, if you were to take her silly nigga ass and put her in a time machine and go back to when she was 3 years old, where she did not have the capability to lie, she'd fail the doll test. Most of us will fail. Right now, you can say whatever you want, because as an adult, you have the capacity to lie. At 3 to 5 years of age, your ass will fail the doll test, because in your heart, you are a white woman or a white man, or what have you. But just as you were saying, not only do our brothers and sisters from the original culture recognize this, we are in utter denial in terms of where our psyche is at.
Whoa! I was just flashing back, showing some pictures of Kenneth and was it Mamie Clark?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right. And that paper, I was about to say the paper bag test, which is another test, which kind of illustrates the same thing that you were just talking about. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are just so enamored with the Black Panther movie. We're beyond now. This is what, 2 months after Black Panther, 1 month, almost 1 month after Black Panther. And people are still Wakanda forever. I think it really tapped into something, and I didn't recognize it at first. At first, I thought it was just the hype, because I'm a Marvel head, make mine Marvel. But now I'm seeing, man, that people are it really did something to people, man.
It shook a lot of people to their core. I'm going to tell you this, seeing Daniel Guerrero, I forgot to say her name, as the female general, that did a lot. Especially one of my favorite parts, no matter what, when she took that wig off and threw it at dude, it was funny, but it was also powerful. She liked the thing on her head, because Crumb Snatcher, you mentioned that in your video. But I think when you see normal depictions of a Black woman, you see her as loud, as ignorant. She always over talking. She's overly aggressive. You see all of these negative connotations. But you saw a representation of a strong Black woman with natural hair. And I love the fact of the colors and everything they did with the movie. But I love the fact that they were also like the fact that they didn't have to have perm or processed hair. They showed Black women who could be, not who could be, but who are strong without any negative stereotypes attached. Because being a strong Black woman, honestly, in this society is a negative stereotype. Whenever someone says it, it's not a positive thing. Because basically, strong Black woman, just basically someone say, yeah, that's a strong Black woman. She a bitch. That's what basically people are saying.
Mm-hmm.
All facts.
So I think that this movie did a lot of things for Black people, and it shook a lot of us to our core, because I think in our souls we have been crying out for something like this. We cry out for representation. We don't want someone else to tell our story. But as far as representation in the media overall, this has been one of the best representations, period. You didn't walk out of the movie feeling like you had watched another Boys in the Hood movie. You walked out of the movie, young Black girls walked out of the movie feeling like they could be warriors, they could be strong, and not be considered ghetto and ignorant. Because if you say she's strong, she a strong woman, she ghetto, she ignorant, she all this other stuff. You saw a Black man who was king. You know, there were these positive role models. And I love the dichotomy that you have a male king, but you got this warrior class of females. See, I believe in that balance of masculine and feminine energy. And I feel like they try to make everything all masculine. And I'm like, no, masculine and feminine energy exist, and they actually exist to uphold and uplift the other. If you have all masculine and no feminine energy, it creates an imbalance. And I think that's one of the things that kind of messes up the world a little bit. This whole masculine thing that's pushed to the forefront without ignoring the feminine energy in the world that also brings balance.
I can't agree more. I remember one time I saw a picture of Jada Pinkett and Will Smith, and they were in a movie theater, you know, coincidentally, and Will Smith had his legs crossed, and Jada Pinkett had her legs open like a man, and you know, there was a strong apparent role reversal. In addition to that balance, you know, if I could, you know, I know I had a bunch of biblical references in the beginning, but you know, I'm also a pseudo doctor. I don't know what you would call me, but in terms of anatomy and physiology, the body has something called homeostasis, where we maintain balance. This is my observation of studying self in terms of nature. You get hot, you sweat.
Hello. Go ahead.
When you get hungry, you eat, you know, because the body is trying to maintain balance. Just like with the earth, we go through seasons. It does get cold. That's a true statement. However, it does get hot as well. For the ice age, there will be a solar age, because the earth is maintaining its balance. So now when we look at these masculine and feminine principles, you know, it's a hard sell to deny that we don't live in a patriarchy, where, you know, it's like 75% of all gynecologists are men. The most famous gynecologist you know was Dr. Huxtable, Bill Cosby. Where you do that at?
Whoa. You just dropped a bomb, man. You just dropped a bomb. Wow.
The professionals and leaders on a woman's role are the people that cannot have babies at all. And then the sisters get mad when I say that 1 out of every 3 births are by C-section. And if I can give you a little bit of history on this, the guy who was considered to be the father of gynecology, right, there is no mother of gynecology in a patriarchal world that is unbalanced. There's only a father of gynecology. My apologies, his name doesn't immediately come to mind, but you know, he terrorized our women, you know, in order to, he said that Black women don't feel pain. That's why they're beautiful tests, not beautiful. That's why
I
they're
know what you're
perfect
talking
tests.
about. I can't think of his name.
Marion something.
It'll come to me.
Yeah,
but some of the beautiful things about that movie, man. It's really had a beautiful impact. And speaking of beauty, one of the beauties of the free version of the Zoom platform is it only gives you 45 free minutes. So we have 5 minutes left. I feel like 5 minutes. Yeah. It's going like that. It's 9:52. Last words, gentlemen. I always say the last word. So, all right. So our special guest, Crumb Snatcher. What do you want to leave our listeners with, bro?
I just want to say thank you so much, Seiko, for allowing me on the platform. I am humble. My name is Crumb Snatcher. You can catch me on Facebook. It's just Crumb Snatcher. You can catch me on YouTube. YouTube gave me my own URL, so it's just youtube.com, Crumb Snatcher. And of course, I'm on Instagram, Crumb_Snatcher_. Thank you again, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Well, before you go, man, what do you do? Tell the listeners why they should look you up on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. What do you? What's your content about?
I'm a conscious pundit. I'm coming on a conscious level, speaking from a Black perspective. There is a surprisingly lack of Black interpretation to all things. So what you're going to get from my page is anything that you've ever been told from a Black perspective. They're going to tell you Christopher Columbus did it. I'm going to tell you the Black man who did it. They're going to tell you, they went to the moon. I'm going to tell you when we went to the moon before that. So I follow Crumb because Crumb is giving you educated, conscious, fun. My stuff is not stiff. My stuff is not boring. It's very colorful, very colorful language.
To say the least.
To say the least. So you definitely follow me because it's conscious, it's fun, it's Black.
And it's not safe for work. All right? So put your headphones on or listen in the car. And it's not safe for the wife and kids either, man. Hide your wife, hide your kids. Yo, cousin Sam, man. What's good? Last words.
Last words are we got to stop looking for other people to be our rock and to be our strength. Everything that we got, we already got it. So it's time for us to move forward, to tell our stories, to tell our own narratives. If you keep looking for somebody to do something for you, you might as well just sit there and die. Whatever you need, you got. So you need to go out there and make that shit happen. Don't wait for no motherfucker. Don't wait for not nail motherfucker to try to do shit for you. Because if you do, you're going to waste the rest of your life being fucking unhappy. And for us Black people, there's never been a time like this. The world is changing, and we're pushing the change. We're not allowing the change to push us. We are pushing the change.
Okay.
All right, that's it.
All right, and in my father's tradition, and salute to my pops, I'm gonna give my Easter message. All right, I do this every year, normally on Instagram, and the message that my father shared with me before he became an ancestor was pretty simple. Something about you is dying. Something about you is coming to an end, but it's going to be reborn in a more glorious form if you hang on to the righteous principles and keep moving in the righteous direction. It's going to grow, it's going to blossom, it's going to resurrect in a more glorious form. So don't worry if something about you is dying. Don't worry if that relationship is turning bad. Start working on putting down some good seeds and improving that relationship, and it's going to revolve. It's going to resurrect in a more glorious form. It may not be with that same person, but it's going to resurrect in a more glorious form. You might really love something, and you say, man, I got to give it up. I got to become healthier. That enjoyment that you have of that meat It's going to come back in a more glorious form when your body's in better shape, and you're still going to have a chance to enjoy that food. It's going to come back in a more glorious form. Those problems that you're having, and we have less than 1 minute left, they're going to come back in a more, there's something about you that's dying, and you're not going to have control over that. But what you do have control over is the direction that you're moving in now. And whatever's dying, with the parts that you really loved about it, it's going to come back in a more glorious form. You will be resurrected. Ashe?
Ashe.
Yo, Dad, I miss you. I love you. That one's for you. All right, gentlemen. Hey, stay fly. That's my way of saying goodbye. Peace.
Peace.
Oh, okay. That's it. Let me stop the video. All right.